Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to once again another episode in this titular series. We are now at episode 5, and last time we took a look at my favorite Dragon Ball character, Broly. And being a bigger figure, it is definitely a little bit more of a challenge trying to get him into some kick-ass poses. Nonetheless, it's possible, and on the flip side, we're taking a look at a much tinier figure that grew to be one of my favorites in the collection. It's the Emperor of Universe 7, the powerful Pipsqueak, Golden Frieza. This figure is one of the ones I'm betting we'll see an updated version of sooner or later, seeing as how, Super's use of him seems almost permanent at this point. But until then, let's get into it with the version that we have. Alright, so this is another exception to the rule of using what we're given in the box, but this accessory makes the pose that much more cooler, and that's the rock that came with OG Frieza. Having Frieza in this stance in the golden form is not only a nice little throwback to the OG Frieza saga days, but I feel like it just brings out the gold in the figure that much more, and it also helps to give Frieza a little bit of a height boost. Now, of course, there are other ways to have him perched up on top of this rock, but since technically I'm not even supposed to be using it in here, I decided to throw it in here at the bottom. Now, unlike the OG Frieza, he does not come with feet that help him adhere to the rocks, so this is where your posing skills need to come into play in order to achieve that perfect level of balance to have him stand on it. Okay, so at number 4 we have quite a simple yet sort of elegant attack pose, which I think suits Frieza quite well, and that is the classic death beam. Now the thing I like about hitting the pose from this angle is it sort of differentiates the golden form from the normal form, as Frieza calls it. In his normal form, we're much more used to seeing him get a little bit more animated when firing off an angry death beam, whereas in his golden form it's almost as much more kind of refined transformation where he doesn't waste as much energy moving around, which I think is portrayed pretty well here. Now, just like with the 5th pose on the list, if you're tight on space in your display, this is definitely another option for you to go with, especially if you want to get into, let's call it, more interactive poses with your viewers. Alright, so at number 3, I've got Frieza leaving the ground now, and that's for the Death Ball. Now, this is an attack we haven't seen for quite some time in the anime, yet it still works with Golden Frieza. And I especially like it because even though he's a shorter figure, getting him airborne brings him much more presence. It even extends from fingertip to tail in this case, giving him the illusion of just being bigger, which he actually should be in this form, but oh well. Anyways, if you happen to have LED lighting in your display, then this is definitely a pose worth trying out, as you'll get to see that gold paint really glint and shine and add some more depth to your display's color palette. Now, of course, the thing here is that it's better with the effects that come with the normal final form Frieza, but if you don't have access to that, and a light itself could arguably even work as well. And let's not forget that this is a face that you can use with that hilarious Frieza raging out face. Alright, so before we get to our top 2, as usual, we got some honorable mentions coming up in the poses. And the first one is any pose versus Goku or Vegeta in their Super Saiyan Blue forms. Pretty representative of the Resurrection F movies. And I mean, just loads of different options you can go with here. It doesn't have to be anything vanilla. It doesn't have to be anything crazy dynamic. Anything goes. Similarly, along that line, anything with Beerus or Whis also fit pretty well, and again it recaptures things from Resurrection F or in even later episodes of Dragon Ball Super. I'm not going to spoil anything, but if you've been watching in the 90s, I believe, episode 93, episode 94 is what I'm getting at. Lastly, anything beside normal form Frieza could work as a pretty cool pose. You can have like, a successive transformation line, kind of like how people do it with, Goku's forms. Even though we don't have Super Saiyan 2 yet, from Figuarts themselves, this could work really well with Frieza. Okay, so coming in at number 2, we have one of the most iconic poses for Golden Frieza, and that is his transformation / power-up stance. We see this countless times in Super, especially through the Tournament of Power saga, and even in the figure form it looks pretty sick. The key here now in pulling this off and not having it look so dull is playing around with the articulation of the torso and neck in relation to the hips. You can of course also hit this pose from multiple angles depending on how your display is, but I think this is probably one of the more common poses out there, and with good reason. Of course, this could work with either the neutral or smiling face as well. Another piece which you'll see play an important role in the first position on this list is the tail. This should not be overlooked in this pose either, because I think it could be argued that Frieza's tail helps communicate his emotions more than the rest of his body does it sometimes. Alright, and finally, coming in at number 1 is any form of in-flight rushing pose with the angry face. I think I'm a bigger fan of this pose since the Tournament of Power arc, and if you've seen that arc in its entirety, you'd pretty much have a better idea why I'm saying that. If not, and we were to keep things strictly figure speaking, a pose like this is one that really and literally elevates Golden Frieza with regard to his presence in the display. No longer is he dwarfed by pretty much every other figure, including his normal form counterpart. Rather, he's given the illusion of being more taller and just on an equal playing field with all the other figures. And you can really get creative with your posing using all his parts, especially the tail, as he doesn't need it for balance anymore, as long as you've got a stand, right? Alright guys, so there's my take on the top 5 ways to pose Golden Frieza. Like I said earlier, I think we're bound to see an updated model for this figure sooner or later given his prominent roles in Super, but hopefully we'll get other much needed updates on other characters like Piccolo before that. How would you guys pose Golden Frieza? Did you pick him up the first time? Are you waiting for a kind of re-release? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, you know what I always say, may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows. Peace.